So I've got a fair bit to cover. I'll probably run through a fair bit of it pretty quickly. Any questions, throw them in the chat box and Mostyn will get it through to me. So assistance the government's handing out that can be accessed by pretty much everyone. First one there, the coronavirus hotline. If you owe the ATO money, don't hesitate to call them. They are being extremely generous at the moment. You can pretty easily get payment plans between 3 and 6 months, or even complete deferrals for that period of time. Low interest payment plans, all that sort of stuff. You just have to be honest with them and upfront. If you put your head in the sand, if you ignore their letters, they won't help you. If you give them a call, they'll be generous. For businesses and individuals that have investment income and they get a quarterly activity statement asking for income tax, you can vary those down to 0, and you can also claim back tax you've paid in the first 2 quarters. I would be personally wary about claiming that tax back because you do have to pay it back at year end. But if you need the cash flow, it's an option for you. There were changes to Fair Work in the last couple of days. Basically, employers get a lot more flexibility as to what they can get their employees to do. Most of it has to be agreed upon between the employer and employees. So, employers can't just create all those draconian rules and require employees to work long hours and all that. It needs to be on agreement, but there's a lot more flexibility there, which basically just helps businesses stay open. There's rental relief, both commercial and residential. From the commercial side, there's been this big code of conduct released by the federal government. It's a fairly long read, but I've got some links to it that I'll send through. From a residential side, that's more state-based. Pretty much, it's just a memoriam, just preventing people from being evicted from homes at the moment. But hopefully, the state government has some more guidance on that soon. And the last one there is bank loan payment relief. Most banks, if not all of them, are really generous on just giving people with home loans, business loans, 3 or 6 month deferrals. I'm yet to hear anyone have too much trouble with that. So now I'll move on to stuff that's specifically for individuals. The top one there, Job Seeker, is what New Start used to be, and it's essentially the dole. There are some conditions around it. The asset test has been waived, but the income test still exists. So you need to have had your employment affected by the coronavirus, and your income must have dropped below $1,000 a fortnight. In addition, your partner has to earn less than a certain amount, and it's a family test where your family income has to be less than $3,000 a fortnight. The actual thresholds can change a little bit based on your situation, whether you're living separately, partnered or single, that sort of stuff, but they're ballpark figures. In order to get New Start, if you're a permanent employee, my understanding is that you have to have lost your employment. So simply having your hours halved isn't enough, but for a casual, having your hours dropped is enough. I'm trying to get clarification on that, but that's my understanding at this point in time. Job Seeker is also available to sole traders and self-employed. However, most of those people will get the Job Keeper payment that was recently announced. And as I said, casual workers there. For a lot of Centrelink recipients, they will get a coronavirus supplement. It's $550 a fortnight, and as I've got there, it's all or nothing. It's not phased out. So if you get $1 of government help, you will get the full $550 coronavirus supplement. There's also one-off payments of $750 to a number of Centrelink recipients. Essentially, it's the New Start, youth allowance, all of that sort of stuff, plus the age pension, carers and veterans. The first payment, I think, went out last week, and another one is due in a couple of months. There's a few other things there for individual: early access to super, free childcare, minimum pension withdrawals for retirees. I won't go into detail on those, so I don't eat up too much time. For businesses and specifically employers, so the cash flow boost was announced 2 or 3 weeks ago. There's a lot of confusion about it. The wording cash flow boost is completely misleading in my opinion, because essentially all the government is doing is they're covering the pay-as-you-go you've withheld from your employees. So you lodge it on the BAS, you get a credit equal to that amount. The ATO don't give you the money and then say to you, yes, you can pay it back, but pay it back in 6 months' time. They don't give you the cash. The only time you get cash out of it is if your BAS is an actual overall refund. For example, if you've got a GST refund or you've claimed back your tax instalments. The minimum payment you receive if you're eligible is 10 grand. It's reported out there it's 20, but it's actually 10, and the maximum is 100. As a general rule, it's dollar for dollar, pay-as-you-go tax withheld between 1 January and 30 June. So on your March BAS and your June BAS, whatever pay-as-you-go withholding you've got on there, that is the figure the ATO gives you. But it is a minimum 10 grand. There is a second group of payments from July to October, where whatever you got in the first group of payments, so from 1 January to 30 June, you will get that amount again between July and October. So in that July to October period, it's not based on your actual withholding, it is simply what you got before. So I'll move on to bank loans. Government are guaranteeing 50% of a special coronavirus loan. The government is not making the loan. I've heard that a fair bit, that government are lending money, the government are not lending money. Because it is a bank loan, the banks still want people to jump through the normal lending hoops. So, I mean, we've applied personally for an overdraft for our business, just in case things fall apart. And we've got a whole big long list of questions we've got to go back with. They want to know how our business is affected. They want a cash flow projection for 12 months, things like that. So it's not easy to get, but if it's a thing that keeps your business alive, then you should absolutely invest the time in it. Other thing they're doing for employers, wage subsidies, accelerated depreciation claims, but if no one's got money to buy things, that's probably not overly relevant. Insolvency laws have been relaxed, and the National Code of Conduct on commercial leases. So I'll move on and focus on the JobKeeper payment. It was legislated last night. We've got a fair bit more info now than what we did a week ago, which is great. So just going down there, applies from the 30th of March, but the first payment isn't made until May. So you'll get a lump sum payment in May, covering that period of time. It's for 6 months, so from March through to the end of September. To be eligible to get it, the business needs to have a drop in turnover of 30%. Now, the ATO have clarified they're going to work this out based on BASs. So that means if you calculate your BAS on a cash basis, then they will calculate turnover on a cash basis. Also makes getting your BASs right really important. We don't want to be in a situation where you put the wrong figure on your BAS, become eligible to it accidentally, and then have the ATO come back to you later on wanting that payment back, because they will do it. You can be eligible for only some of the 6 months. They are doing it on a month-by-month basis, and what they're going to do is on the 7th of each month, they're going to ask each business to tell the ATO what their actual turnover was for the last month and what their projected turnover is for the next month. So businesses will need to be on top of their books. It'll be a big change for a lot of people, but if it again means keeping the business afloat, it's something you're going to have to do. There's been talk about what employees are eligible, and I want to define wages in this context. Wages are payments made to employees that are regular with tax withheld from every payment. There are a lot of businesses out there that the owners pull money out as and when they need it. That is not a wage. Those people are not eligible to get the JobKeeper payment under that wage definition. The ATO and the government have made a concession in the last day or two. Business owners will be able to nominate one person of the business to get the JobKeeper payment where that applies. So if if family trusts in particular, quite often the mum and dad in there won't take out a wage. They'll just pull money out as needed. At the end of the year, the accountant will split the income, however is most tax effective. They don't fit the wages criteria, but the ATO will allow that trust to say mum or dad can get the JobKeeper payment. So that was a pretty big concession because there was a lot of talk about that. What to do next is really just to finalise it all. Number one there is accept that the system is unfair, because it is. There are people getting stimulus that probably don't need it, and there are lots of people not getting it that do need it. There's no point fighting the system. There's no point wasting your energy getting stressed about it, arguing about it. We just have to accept that it is what it is. You're welcome to write to your MP and write to the government. That might get some change, but other than that, for your emotional health, just accept it is what it is. It's not easy to make $300 billion worth of stimulus payments and design it from scratch and do that in a few weeks and get it right. So, you know, they've done the best they can. Ideally, they would have done better, but they haven't. Be patient. The JobKeeper in particular has only just been legislated. It will take the ATO time to get processes in place. Take Centrelink, as we've seen, to get processes in place for the job seeker. And a plug for us, accountants, we're only just getting our heads around it as well. I had to stay up late last night to read legislation and guidance and all that. Just if your accountant says to you, give me a week, I can only suggest give them a week because it is difficult. The ATO, Centrelink, they've made intent to claim forms out there, which is not the full claim form, but it's really just you're putting in your interest and saying, hey, I want this. The good thing about them is that when you finally do fill out the proper forms, they will backdate your eligibility to the day you put your intent to claim in. So it's really important to do that. And I've got links on how to do that Mostyn will forward around after the... Same thing for the job seeker, do the intent to claim. As soon as you lose your job, as soon as a casual or something like that, your hours drop, get on there and register your intent to claim. If it turns out that you don't need to claim, you can just redact or withdraw that claim pretty easily. You need to do that via MyGov. MyGov is the ATO's online platform. The ATO is moving a lot of stuff onto MyGov, so it'd be worth setting that up anyway. You're going to need it eventually, but if you're a job seeker, you will need to do it via MyGov. Similar for JobKeeper, there is an intent to claim. There's been close to 1 million businesses registered so far. That number will keep rising. From an employee and employer relationship point of view, you need to communicate. Employers need to go to their accountant, find out more information. We've got a couple of brochures that hopefully will help people that are here today. If employers are intending to claim, communicate that with your employees so they've got some certainty and work together. Employers probably aren't going to start paying everyone $750 today when they're uncertain what's going on. Employees need to accept that and just, you know, there just needs to be give and take both ways. Working arrangements, again, be open-minded. Employers might ask people to work different hours to what they're used to. Employees might turn around and say they can't work their normal hours because their kids are at home or something like that. The kids are not going to school. So just everyone needs to be flexible. The only way we're going to survive and get through this is by being flexible. And for the cash flow boost, it applies for the JobKeeper as well. There are integrity provisions in there to stop people changing their employment arrangements in order to get more money out of this. It is really, really easy for the ATO to pick this stuff up. My only advice is don't try it. It's not worth it. The ATO will come down hard on people. As an accountant, we've been warned by our professional bodies and the Tax Practitioners Board that we face significant penalties for helping employees and employers get access to more money than what they're otherwise able to. You know, it's something they're cracking down on. and lodge your BAS by the 28th of April, because that's when payments start. You don't need to do it earlier. You just have to have it in by that day. And that's everything I've got there, Mostyn.
Great. Really appreciate that, Adam. It's very insightful, and it's definitely been a big help for me over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
We've got a couple of questions.
Go for it.
Anthony Pappas, if I can get you to just unmute, Anthony, and ask your question, please.
Yeah, good day. My question is in regards to the jobs. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Yeah, just in regards to the job keeper payments. Not sure if that covers partly owned government organisations that are not for profit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so government organisations, I don't believe it does, but not for profits, yes. Charities have a 15% turnover reduction threshold, so it's easy for them to get to it. And for charities that take donations, donations don't get reported on BASs, but they are taking donations into account when assessing that 15% drop in turnover. As for your particular situation there, yeah, where it's partly government owned or government run, I'm not entirely sure, but if you want to shoot me details, I'm happy to look into it for you.
Yep. Cheers, will do.
Thanks, Anthony. Simon, you've got a question. Simon Peterson, do you want to ask your question, Adam, please?
Yeah, g'day, mate. My question is, when they're looking at that reduction of 30%,
yep,
are they comparing it to last year at this stage?
Yeah, so
what are they comparing it to?
Yeah, primarily it's the same period last year.
Yep.
Where the last year's period was outside of normal,
yep,
or you have lumpy income, as they call it, so very seasonal.
Yep.
The ATO are allowing you to use a different method.
Mm-hmm.
The details around that are still being finalised. I believe the ATO will require you to explain why last year isn't appropriate, yep, and provide some sort of detail or evidence as to why you're using what you intend on using as your comparison.
Yep. Okay.
So particularly startups and fast growing businesses that applies to. Startups obviously may not have a prior period comparison, so
yes,
you know, the prior month, the prior 3 months might be the most appropriate method.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
That's Simon. That's some of the challenges we're going through. We didn't think we were going to be eligible at all for JobKeeper, but
yep,
we might be able to apply.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yes, that's right. I've got a question from Andrew Thornton. Andrew, can you unmute and ask your question, please?
Yeah, look, thanks, Adam. I had a question just in relation to people that might have lost their jobs before JobKeeper was announced.
Yep.
Are you able to reinstate them and then they'd be eligible for JobKeeper, or is it too late? You got your redundancy letter, thanks for coming.
Yeah, no, so generally you can, if they were laid off after the 1st of March, they can be put back on and you can claim the JobKeeper in full for that person and have that paid out to them. There is a potential issue with people that have been paid out redundancy, annual leave, long service leave payouts, because my understanding of the law and how it interacts with the Fair Work Act is that that employee is treated as if they never left the employment. So it is we're trying to get clarification, but I believe that the employee may need to pay back to the employer their redundancy payout. Now, the employee probably doesn't have the money floating around for that, so that would need to be a discussion where, you know, maybe some of the JobKeeper payment is withheld and used against what is effectively a loan. We're trying to get more clarification on it, but that's my understanding. But in general, yes, you can put back on employees that have been stood down or let go completely.
Okay, great. Thanks. We're just seeking for that advice while we're trying to work out if we've met that 30% threshold to what to say in the meantime.
Yeah, so for me, it would be worth ringing those employees and saying, hey, we're going to try this. We're going to see if we're eligible. We're going to apply for it. We want to keep you on. So if we can get eligibility, if we can get access to it, we will keep you on and we will pay you the $750. and just ask them to be patient with you.
Okay, but apply for job seeker in the meantime.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Apply for job seeker. If they get job seeker and they should have been getting job keeper, Centrelink might ask for the job seeker back. But the wording I've seen is that they might be a little bit relaxed on it.
Yep, I suspect most people would be happy with the second outcome anyway.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
We've got one question. I don't think that question was answered, Stuart. So I'll get you to ask your question, Stuart, because I'm keen to understand appeals as well.
I actually don't know exactly the appeal process for this. There is an appeal process, but as to what it is, I can't really answer at this point. Yeah, something I'll probably look into, and I can shoot Stuart an email or something like that and answer his question directly.
Great. All right. I think we'll leave it there, Adam. Really appreciate your time.
No worries.
Definitely insightful for the group.